All right, welcome to today's webinar on using project plans in Windchill 11.0. We are going to, quick here, look at the agenda. Just provide an overview to the project planning capabilities in Windchill 11. I'm going to start out with a quick introduction to boundary systems, who we are, and just a little bit about us as a company. I'll talk about then I'll go into the actual Windchill project plan overview. Just give you a summary of sort of some of the functionality that is available for managing project plans in Windchill, and then dive into the demonstration. And like I said, at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. So if you do have questions throughout the presentation, just type them into the questions area in the GoToWebinar. But at the end, I'll also just unmute everybody and you can ask questions at that point if you have any. All right. Like I said, my name is Wade Morvek. I'm the Director of Global Services for Boundary Systems. I've been working with PTC products, Pro Engineer, and then Creo and Windchill for about 19 years. I started out doing Pro Engineer training, and then I've also done a lot of consulting and implementation, and sort of moved more and more from the CAD and Creo side to the Windchill and product lifecycle management side over that time period. Boundary Systems, we are a partner with PTC, and again, PTC makes Windchill Project Link, which we're going to talk about today. They also make Creo CAD software, and they've been in acquisition mode for many years now, sort of adding to their portfolio. Currently they're very focused on Internet of Things, and have added some of those capabilities into both their Creo and Windchill offerings over the last few years. We also are partners with some other companies we'll talk about more on the next slide, or 2 slides later, that again sort of fill in some of the areas where maybe we don't have an offering directly from PTC. Our capabilities and sort of focus is on product lifecycle management, both the CAD side of design and manufacture and things like that, and then also managing all of that data, more on the PLM side, managing that CAD data, managing associated documentation, managing the processes that are required in order to get from that initial concept to a completed product. Here are some of our awards and accreditations that we've received at Boundary Systems. So we've been recognized both by Inc. 5000 and the Weatherhead 100 as one of the fastest growing companies nationally for the Inc. 5000 and in the region for the Weatherhead. And we are a Windchill certified implementer and a certified PTC training partner. So we have a lot of experience working with PTC products, and can really come in and help you understand the best way to use those products, in a consultative manner. Try to figure out what are your challenges, what are you trying to accomplish, and what are the best ways to sort of get you to your goals. In addition to PTC, we also partner with some additional companies, Solid Thinking, who makes Inspire, which is a lightweighting software where you can go in, sort of give apart your constraints and tell it how it's going to be loaded, and it'll remove as much material as it can to meet your goals. eTraj does some custom solutions that work with Windchill and Creo. So if you have something that you're trying to accomplish that's not quite in the out-of-the-box offering, they have some off-the-shelf offerings that'll work with those solutions, and then they can also do custom solutions. And then Moldex 3D for mold filling simulation, Mentor Graphics, FlowEFD, computational fluid dynamics, and then ZWCAD is a 2D CAD package similar to AutoCAD. If you do have questions following the presentation, if you have technical questions, you can email me. If you have questions about pricing or packaging, you can contact sales@boundarysys.com. And I'll put this information back up again at the end in case you don't have it written down yet. So before we dive into sort of the demonstration here, I had a couple additional questions I was going to ask. So the first one is, what version of Windchill is everyone currently using? Are you still on a very old version, 9.x or earlier? Are you on 10, or are you up to date on 11? Or you don't currently use Windchill? All right, so actually everybody is on 10 point, presumably 1 or 2, possibly 0. So not all the way up to date on 11, but at least relatively up to date. And then the next question is, what Windchill functionality do you currently use? Are you using PDM Link only, Project Link only, both PDM Link and Project Link, or I told you we don't use Windchill? Okay, so that one is actually fairly evenly split between PDM Link only and PDM Link and Project Link. And finally, one last question. We actually ran a Project Link webinar in December of last year. Did any of you attend that one, or is this the first Project Link webinar you've attended with us in a while? All right. So none of you attended that Project Link webinar last December. I guess that means I can just play back that recording and you won't know the difference. But I won't do that. I actually have, there's some new information here. We're going to focus a little bit more on what's new in Windchill 11 than we did in that last one. Although that recording is available, I believe, on YouTube if you want to go take a look at it. Some of the information will be similar, but there's going to be a lot of new information that's different from that one. Okay, so jumping into the main content of the webinar, Project Link is the module within Windchill which allows you to do collaboration with outside sources. You can share information from your products to a project, and you can give suppliers or customers access to just that project so that they can access and view a limited amount of the information that you have in your system. But what we're going to focus on is actually managing the project plan. So you can build a project plan of what activities need to happen, how much time is it going to take for each of those activities, what predecessors have to complete before the next activity moves forward, and then you can view Gantt charts and all sorts of information to sort of see where are you in the project and what still needs to happen. And because users actually have logins to Project Link, we can assign resources to those activities, and with those tasks, it's going to send out actual tasks to the users when it gets to their point in the plan. Okay, here's your task. You need to develop the pilot environment. You can go in, you can track your work, you can update where you're at, and all of that rolls up to that project plan and gives everybody visibility to that within a single central location. And then you can also have deliverables, because Windchill can manage documents and CAD data and all sorts of other electronic information. We can tie those deliverables to the activities where they're going to be developed, and we can track that relationship and have all of that information controlled, again, in a single location. With the project plans, again, the project plan is going to be made up of activities. You can have nested activities. You can see down at the bottom in our project plan that we have, we have Windchill planning, and then we have a couple of sub items under there, and then we have piloting, and we have sub items under there. So you can have a structure to this. Like I said, you can have predecessors. You can have different ways in which those activities are going to be triggered to start. Are they going to start as soon as possible? Are they going to start after their predecessors finish? Do we want to start them as late as possible? We have several options within there. Again, once we have that project plan built, then we have all sorts of tools to manage and track that. So we can view a Gantt chart to see when those activities are happening on a timeline. We can create plan baselines that are going to allow us to take snapshots of that plan at different points throughout the execution, and then we can go back and do comparisons to see how that plan changed and evolved throughout its execution. So, when we finish that project, how did our actual timeline compare to what we thought it was going to be when we started? We can go back and do that comparison using baselines. And then we also have the option of automatic or manual execution, which is determined basically by how are you managing this plan. Do you have a project manager that is going out and getting updates from everybody that's working on things and then coming back in and sort of manually updating the plan based on that feedback? Or are we actually sending the activities to the users and they're updating it in real time as they complete those, and we're actually dynamically updating the timing and the completion dates and everything based on their feedback? And so I'll sort of show you the difference between those in the demonstration. So that's all sort of core project link capabilities in terms of managing your project plan. There are some new capabilities that were added in Windchill 11. Even the baselines were added on a maintenance release of 10.2, so the ability to create baselines and do those comparisons is relatively new. In Windchill 11, they updated the interface a little bit. One of the big things they did was to make the project plan page tabbed. So when we go to the project plan, we now have 3 tabs. We have details, schedule, and baselines. And so we can quickly jump back and forth between viewing the actual schedule or timeline of that project plan, viewing the details and high-level information about it, or viewing the baselines on it. In Windchill 10.2, when they added the baselines, those were available, but it was sort of hidden. It was sort of cumbersome to get to that. So this tabbed interface really makes it a lot easier to sort of jump between your current schedule and going back to creating and viewing those baselines. A couple of other new things that are new in Windchill 11, I think these may have been added in the MO10 maintenance release. And both of these are actually optional functionality. By default, this is disabled. If you want to turn this on, you can set the release.opt-in property in your WT properties file to true to enable this. So if you've been using other functionality in the past and you just want to keep using it the way you have been, you can do that by leaving that as false. If you want to utilize some of these new capabilities, you need to change that to true. And these 2 new things are deliverable activities and the ability to create multiple plans in a single context. And so, again, deliverable activities, we've been able to create and associate deliverables to project activities for many years. The difference here is that they've made this more of a specific type of activity that is expecting to have deliverables, and so it has a tighter relationship between the activity and the associated documents and CAD data and things like that than what it would have had in the past. And then multiple plans just means that within a single project context, we can actually go in and have multiple plans defined. And so you can see that here. We're in a single project. We have an engine design plan and a blower design plan. So we can actually have sort of multiple plans that are happening simultaneously or sort of in parallel within that single project context. Those don't have to be 2 separate projects, and they don't have to be multiple sort of sub-activities of the same plan. We can actually have 2 different plans. It's all part of the same project, feeding off of the same list of content and folders and the same team and all of those things. Again, key thing to use any of that, you have to set that opt-in property to true. Those are some of the things that I'm going to focus on in the demonstration. All right, so let me jump out of the PowerPoint here and actually go into Project Link. So this is Windchill 11.0. I think I'm on the MO10 release right now, and I'm logged in as one of the project managers, and so I have I can go to my projects, my all projects page, and view all of the projects that we currently have in the system. If I go to active projects, that's going to get rid of any that maybe are completed or inactive. And then I can sort by the different columns. Just to show some of the basics here, if I go to my demonstration project, again, in the folders page, I can manage documents within the project itself. So these are documents directly related to the execution of this project. I could also share information from a product or library to that project if I need to have quick access to it within the project, even though it's stored in a different context within Windchill. If I browse to that project and I go to the plan, now I'm going to be able to view the project plans. This is the timeline for this particular project. And I'm going to be able to see, again, estimated start and finish dates for each of these activities, how much work is going to be involved, what are the actual start and finish dates. So some of these activities are 100% completed. And so now that obviously has a start date, it has a finish date. If I want to go in and view in more detail, I'll be able to pull up, my Gantt Explorer. And see what is the overall timeline. I can see where my predecessors are, so I can see that some of these activities have to complete before the next one starts. And as I hover within over each of these activities in the Gantt Explorer, it gives me some additional details and information. If we have a long project plan, where I get, let me zoom in some. Where I can scroll back and forth. If I select a specific activity over here in my my table view, I can tell it to zoom. Oops, that was not actually what I wanted. I can tell it to scroll to, zoom to the wrong way. So I can select one of these activities and I can tell it to scroll to that particular activity, and it's going to scroll to where I can view that one on the screen. So again, that's sort of nice if I get sort of a large complex project in here, I can always jump to a specific activity within that Gantt chart just by using that scroll to option. And you can see some of these do have deliverables associated with them. This is using sort of the old style of deliverable, where it's just a regular activity and then I attach the deliverable to that. I'm going to show you, as we move forward in the demo, I'm going to go into another project and I'll show you that new deliverable activity option, sort of how that works. So I'm going to jump over to a new plan. So I have a project called Deliverable Activities. And I'm going to go to the plans for that project. And you notice that when I went to plans, it didn't just take me right to that single project plan like it did in the previous project. And that's because we actually have multiple project plans defined within this single context. So again, this is one of those new options that is available in Windchill 11. I could hit new plan here and I could create additional plans. So if you have a single project within which you want to manage the new product development from an engineering perspective as a single plan, you want to develop a new marketing strategy, and that's going to be a separate plan entirely. Those things are going to be happening in parallel, and maybe you're going to have different people managing those plans. you can actually break those out totally separately within the same project, whereas in the past you would have had to have multiple projects or have all of that combined into a single project planned under different sub-activities or things like that. In this case, I'm going to go to my blower redesign. That's the main plan I want to focus on. I'm going to expand out my schedule. And so you can see I've got everything planned out. It's a fairly simple plan in this case, but we're going to develop a new specification. We're going to develop the CAD models for that, and we're going to develop some marketing materials. And you notice some of these do have deliverables shown in here. And the deliverable has a little different icon than what we saw before. It's got the little sort of target symbol down in the corner. That's because we use the new deliverable activity option. So if I go to create a new activity, down at the bottom, I have the option still to mark the activity as a milestone, or I can mark the activity as deliverable. And if I do that, it's going to give me a deliverable tab up here where I can go in and add subjects to that deliverable. And I have some options. Are those going to be tracked to a specific revision of the deliverable object? Is it always going to be linked to the latest revision of the object? Or is it going to be linked to a specific version of the object? So tell it it's going to be linked to the latest revision. And then over here, I can either paste if I've already gone off and found the items I want and copied and pasted, or I can add those subjects. And in this case, within a project, it's only going to look within this specific project. And so if I want to link to CAD data or something like that that is managed within a product or a library, then I need to share that information to the project first. So it makes it a little bit easier to find what you want to add as that deliverable. You just have to make sure that it's included within that project. All right, so I'm actually going to cancel that and go take a look. If I go look at my folders, you can see I do have that CAD data. You can see has been shared. It's stored in a product. I wanted to reference that. We're going to be making a change to this CAD data. So I shared that to the project. We can make all our changes within the project, and then we can check that back into the product later on if we want to. And then I also have some documentation that we're going to develop. We have a specification document and some marketing documents that we're going to develop within this project. So I'm going to jump back to the plan. And within here, I'm going to go in and take a look at my baselines tab. So again, getting to the baselines is very easy within Windchill 11. It used to be I had to go to the information on the top node in the plan. It was a little bit cumbersome to get there. Now I just switched to the baseline tab. You can see we have the current plan. That's always going to be there. And then we have an as planned baseline. And I can go back to my schedule. I can create a baseline view that will do a comparison. So it shows what's my duration, what's my duration variance. So that's showing how much the duration has changed between the baseline and the current plan. I can see my estimated start and finish, and my baseline start and finish. And then again, I also have a variance in there. So I can see my estimated start was 7:19, or my estimated baseline start was 7:19 at 8 a.m. I actually started the project at 11 a.m. So we've got a little bit of variance between when I expected to start and when I actually, or when I initially expected to start, and then what the current estimate is. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to get rid of that baseline information for now, and just take a look at the plan again. Take a look at some of these tools that I have. I'm going to go into the Gantt Explorer and look at what the overall timeline for this plan looks like. So I can see, here's the overall plan. We're going to run from today to August 2nd, and we haven't completed any of the work yet. So we're just starting today. And then I can see the different activities that are going to happen within this plan. And so some of these are overlapping. That's good. We're going to be able to develop some of the marketing materials while we're updating the CAD, and then some of it we have to wait until other things are going to be completed. I also, in addition to just my general Gantt view here, I can view a capacity report. So I have resources assigned to these activities where I'm specifying who's going to complete each of them. And so if I go to my capacity report, that's going to show, okay, I've got some activities assigned to me starting right now. That's okay. But then following that, I've got 2 different activities assigned to myself, and my allocation is 100% for each of those. So this could be okay. I could be working on 2 different things at the same time if my allocation was at 50% on each of them, where I'm saying, okay, I'm spending half my time on this one and half on that one. I've got it set to 100% on each of those. So that's where I can go back and sort of look at how do I want to change this to make things work in here. I can't be doing 200% effort on this. So I'm going to go back to my plan, and the 2 activities I was going to be working on were updating the models and developing the new marketing materials in there. I can move my resource column over so that I can see that a little bit more easily here. So let's say I do just want to make myself work on each of these 50% of the time, and I'm still going to handle both of those. So I'm going to edit the blower models, and we'll say, okay, we're only going to do 50% here. And now that duration went from 5 days to 10 days, because I still have to do the same amount of effort, but I'm only spending 50% of my time on it. And so if I jump back to my Gantt Explorer and refresh that, I'm going to see, okay, that pushed the whole timeline out. I made a change I made a change that doubled the duration of this activity. So that's not really what I want to do. Now I'm finishing on August 9th. And if I don't want to come in and just sort of eyeball, well, what changed when I made that change, that's where I can come back to my baseline view. And remember, it's comparing my current status of this plan to whatever I snapshotted in the baseline, which was the original plan. And so now I can see my original estimated finish was 8.2. My new estimated finish is 8.9. So we delayed everything by 5 days. That seems like a bad idea. So I'm going to change that back. And so now my finish doesn't have that extra 5 days in there. But I need to figure out a different strategy. So I think what I'm going to do is just take this second activity that was assigned to me. I'm going to edit the resources on there. I'm going to assign this to somebody else. And so that should allow both of those to be completed. So let me go back to my Gantt chart. And so, okay, now we're back to where these are overlapping like I want. This top activity is only 5 days, which is what we sort of intended for. And now if I look at my capacity report, I can see only one activity is assigned to me during this period of time, because we took that other one and we assigned it to Bodhi instead. And so, I have the tools to sort of spot, did I allocate multiple tasks to the same person simultaneously within this plan? Now that I know that we didn't, I can go ahead and start the execution of this plan back up. So the first task in this plan is going to me. This is to develop the new blower specification. I'll close out of there. And if I log in as myself, so I was logged in as the admin previously, now I'm logged in as myself in a separate browser window here. If I refresh, I'm going to see that right now I actually don't have any tasks assigned to me. That's because we have this project suspended in order to make changes to it. So I can start the execution of a project, send out the tasks, If I realize somewhere in the middle that I need to sort of put a pause on things, I can suspend that and everybody's tasks will sort of disappear from their task list in Windchill. So I'm going to go back in as the project manager, and I'm just going to tell it to resume that plan. And as soon as I do that, whoever has active tasks, it's going to send those tasks out to them. So go back to my non-baseline view here. So I can see this activity, it actually has started. I started the plan, so it started that activity, and it should go to my user in my other window over there. And it's estimated for 8 hours of work. So it's starting today at the time that it actually started. It's going to finish tomorrow at the same time. This plan, if I go to my details, again, I can get there easily through the tab. This plan is set up for automatic execution, which means that we're actually driving the execution of the project plan through Project Link. We're not just going out and getting updates from people and then coming in and typing in that new information. We're going to send the tasks. Those users are going to respond to them, and it's going to set these finish dates and everything based on when those users complete their tasks, sort of in real time. So based on that, let me go in as my other user. So now I'm logged in as myself. If I go back to my home page, now I have my task to develop the new blower specification. So it sent me that task. When I click on there, I'm going to see general information, and I can see the deliverables. And so again, because this is one of those new deliverable activities, it automatically has the deliverable listed there, and so I can see that. If I go to Actions and Track Work, I can update the amount of work that I've put in. So let's say I've put in 2 hours on this already. I'm going to calculate my completion percentage automatically. Everything's going well, so we'll set the status to green, the risk to very low. And I actually have a tab for deliverables in here right within the track work field. So this is something that isn't there if you just use the traditional activity and create a deliverable on it. You don't get control of those deliverables from the track work page. And so I can actually go in as the project manager. I can say this is a deliverable activity and not create the document yet. The user can create the document as a part of that activity, and they can go in and they can add it to the activity directly through the track work. We know that we've got that. We're going to have a deliverable. We've assigned that the activity is a deliverable activity, so we can have that set up. So we're at 2 hours done. Actually, let's say I've made some extra progress. I actually think I'm about, regardless of how much time I put in, I'm about 50% done with this overall activity. So I'm going to finish that update. And now if I come back in as the project manager and I update that plan, let's see, reschedule plan. It's going to show that I am now 50% done with the work on this particular activity. So it's got that work completion, I've got the status updated, and it's going to, again, update in real time sort of as we go through that process. Again, from the activity, I can see the deliverable. I can see that I have scheduled deliverables associated with that activity. The other thing that I can do, which is kind of neat, is if I go and actually look at one of these activities. So this, let's say I look at the blower specification document. I have all of my standard information within Windchill here, and I have a Plan Activities tab that is going to show any activities, any of these deliverable activities that are tied to this particular document. So I can see, okay, we've got an activity called Develop New Blower Specification. We said that's 50% done. It started at this time, and I can click Info to drill in and get that information. So again, that's another improvement with this new deliverable activity type. Is not only can we see, okay, from the activity, here are the deliverables, but from any of those objects, we can go in and see, okay, what plan activities are tied to this, and what is their current status. Now, in this case, there's only one activity tied to this object, and that typically is going to make sense. But if I go back and look at my plan, and I actually have a link here. Again, if I browse to the project, now I have my plans option. That's going to show both of the plans that are associated to this project. One of the nice things about having multiple plans in a project is that whether these are manual or auto execution is actually plan dependent. It's not the entire project. So I can go to the details for this project. You know, we don't have anything. We have the phase that the overall project is at and all of those things. But if I go in and look at my plans, you know, my deliverable activities plan is set for manual execution. And then my blower redesign plan is set for automatic execution. So again, if you have different plans within that one project where some of it involves internal people that are project link users and can get those tasks and can update everything, you know, on their own, you can make that automatic execution. If you have something else that depends on outside resources that maybe aren't actually logging into project link, but you need to get updates for them and you still want to have your information updated in real time, you can make that plan manual execution. All right, so let me go back to the schedule here. And in this case, I have a couple of tasks here down at the bottom: develop new marketing materials. And actually, let me look at this in my Gantt view so that we can visualize it a little bit better. All right, so we've got under marketing materials, we're going to develop new marketing materials. Then we're going to create some renderings, and then we're going to finalize the marketing materials. So developing the new marketing materials, we're going to start on it right away. As soon as we have our specification defined, which you can see we're getting close to, because up here it's identifying that we're at 50%, you know, complete on that activity. We're going to start developing those marketing materials right away, but we can't start creating the renderings that we're going to use for the pretty pictures in those until we actually have the CAD done. So here we're waiting till the CAD is done before we can create those renderings. And then once both of those are done, then we can finalize those marketing materials at the very end. And so some of these, like developing the marketing materials, if I go to the information page on that one, now I'll see, again, we actually have multiple deliverables associated with this. So we don't have to have a one-to-one relationship. I don't have to go in and create 3 separate project plan activities to develop, you know, the blower leaflet, the fact sheet, and the brochure. I can have all of those as, you know, associated deliverables to this one activity. And if I go to one of those deliverables, like the brochure, and I go to that plan activities tab in that document, you can see that we actually have multiple plan activities tied to that. Because again, we're doing that initial development of those materials, and then once the renderings are done, we're coming back and finalizing it. So that's a case where, you know, it's actually the same document, but it's associated to multiple activities, and we can see that, you know, right here within the plan activities information. All right, so again, let's go back to plan. Again, our estimated finish date for this develop new blower specification activity is still tomorrow around 11 a.m. I'm going to go in and complete that. So I'm going back in as myself. I'm going to track the work and say, okay, that's actually 100% done. Go back to the plan. The plan, actually, I'm going to go back in as my other user. You can see my finish date, my actual finish now updated to be the time that this was actually completed at. So I completed that at noon today, and so it automatically updated. and it went ahead and sent the task for the next activity, for which the first one was a predecessor. It went ahead and sent that, and that actually came to this user. This org admin user, just got the task to confirm the specification. I'm going to go ahead and complete that. And so now both of those have completed. And if I view my Gantt Explorer, you can see in the Gantt Explorer, this was originally finishing on August 2nd. Now it's back to August 1st because I completed those activities ahead of time. Because we're on automatic execution, as soon as I complete those, it marks that as the completion time and moves on into the next activity. If I was on manual execution, even if I mark this completed today, if the estimated finish was tomorrow, it still leaves that as the finish unless I go in and I manually edit that. So again, if you sometimes find out on Friday that something finished on Wednesday, and you want to mark that complete and still have leave that as Wednesday as the finish date, instead of adding 2 days to the plan, you would want to use manual execution in that case. So with automatic, when I hit complete, that's going to become the completion date. And so again, those activities completed early. Now we're moving right on into the next two parallel activities, which is the updating the blower models and developing the marketing material. And again, it updated all of my dates and everything automatically. So once again, that's where I can go back and use the baselines. I can look at my baseline view, and I can see my original estimated finish was August 2nd. Now my estimated finish is on August 1st. So we've trimmed about a little over a half a day out of that overall project plan by finishing that first set of activities early. Now, at this point, maybe I want to say, okay, we know we made that change. I want to track where we were at the end of the specification development. I can go in and I can create another new baseline. And so now if I go to my baselines tab, we have multiple baselines defined. We have the as planned baseline, and then we have the after specification baseline. So if I go back to my schedule, you can see right now all of my variations are back to 0 days. That's because we're comparing the current plan to that new baseline that I just created a second ago. If I take my as planned and I set that as the active baseline, now it's refresh. Now it's going to be back to where it's comparing the current state back to that baseline. So you can create as many baselines as you want throughout the plan, and then you can go back and you can compare, the current plan, to any of those. If you're not sure which was created the most recently, it's kind of nice. We have the option to do a set most recent baseline as active. So that's just going to automatically update it to the most recent baseline instead of having to go back and try to figure that out. And again, I can make additional changes if we realize, certain things are going to change. Let's say I realize for creating maybe the models is actually going to take a little bit longer than we expected it to. So I want to change the total amount of work that's going to take. In order to make that change, because we're in the midst of this automatic execution, as the project manager, I have to just go in and suspend the plan to sort of pause it. Then I can go in and I can update that update that value. And again, that's going to make that change. Then I can go in and I can restart the plan and continue. So if we do realize, hey, I need to add additional activities to this, or based on some of what we've done so far, we realize some of our original estimates are going to need to change. Again, we can just go in, sort of pause the plan, make those changes, and then we can resume that later on. In this case, if I look at updating my blower models, go back in, that was again assigned to me. And if I go in and look at the deliverables for that one, now we've actually got that tied to the CAD. So I know, okay, here are all of the things that are, I need to complete as a part of this activity. So I can go in, I can see, here's my assembly. And I can add that to the workspace. I can check it out. I can make my changes to it. And then, as I do that, I don't have this added in here yet. But as I do that, then I can also come in, let's say I made some changes to this, right from here, I can say, okay, I did, 3 hours of work on this just now. And so now that's going to update my completion percentage to 8%, and that's going to roll back up to the plan. So that's kind of nice. If I'm working on a specific object that is associated through a deliverable activity back to that plan, I don't have to keep going out and hunting for that. I have a link to that plan activity right here within my assembly. I can do the track work from there, and that's going to, again, if I go back over here, look at that plan, that percentage is going to roll up. And also, of course, if I come back under track work, I can also set my status. I'm going to set that to green. Again, those status updates will roll up. The project manager is going to be able to see those right away. If we go in, we have a critical issue going on. I can update my status. I can put a status description in there. Again, the project manager, as they're viewing this, as soon as I set that to red, it's going to roll up to the status of the project. Even if they're just going in and looking at a summary of all the projects, they're going to see that information in there. Go to view all. All of a sudden, I'm going to see, hey, this project is red. What's going on there? I can drill into that plan. And if I have, I don't know if I have it shown here. I may not have a good view set up, but if I have a view set up that shows that status description, I can actually see that status description right there, or I can go to my information, and I'm going to see, don't see it there. That's actually on the activity. But I can set it up so that it'll roll up and it'll show me why did I set that status to red, as well as just showing me the red status on there. So again, that's there's a lot to this. So for the most part, you can create project plans that are as complex or as simple as you need them. Again, these are pretty simple, just so you can sort of see everything going on in one screen and sort of make sense of it. But we can also go in and we can create much more complex plans. This one has 282 activities within it. And we can expand these out to multiple levels. And then we can see down to that level, the duration of this one. again, is more like 400, it's a year and a half as opposed to, or a year and a quarter as opposed to a couple of weeks. And I'm still going to be able to go in and view that in my Gantt Explorer. And I can expand out as far as I need to there. If I want to get to one of those activities, again, I can zoom in and out in terms of the length of my timeline, or this is where it becomes really useful to use that scroll to option. I can scroll right over to a specific activity. And again, I can see this one's 16% complete. As I zoom out, now I'm going to be able to get a better view of the overall timeline of that plan. So, like I said, the project planning capabilities, most of this capability is there in Windchill 10.2. Baselines were added in 10.2 in a maintenance release. So you can do a lot of this stuff in the current versions that you're on. Build plans, send activities out to users based on those plans. You can use deliverables to tie the activities to the specific content that's being developed in previous versions. Again, in Windchill 11, they went to this tab view to just sort of make it a little bit easier to navigate within projects. And they added those optional capabilities, again, to have multiple plans and timelines within a single project context, and to create those actual deliverable activities that really create that tight relationship between the content, the documents, the CAD data, whatever else you may be developing and managing in Windchill, and the activity that is sending those tasks to the users that say, hey, you have to develop this content. That's pretty much what I wanted to show you today in terms of the capabilities of managing project plans in Windchill 11. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Doesn't look like any questions have been typed in so far. So if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand in the interface or type in a question. If you raise your hand, I can unmute you, or if you type in a question, I can go ahead and just answer those directly. And while we're doing that, I will also just put up the contact information again. If you didn't get that noted earlier, if you do jump off the call and then immediately remember a question that you wanted to ask, feel free to email that to either myself or sales, depending on what your question is regarding. All right, no questions so far. I'll leave the GoToMeeting up for a little bit here, but thank you for your time. We appreciate everybody jumping on. We will post the recording to YouTube, hopefully later on today. So if you had other people that weren't able to join on, you can point them toward that. And we appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you on a future webinar.